Hello, everyone. Well, it's time. Today, we are about to get oozed. And you do not want to miss it. But first, I want to let you know that I have books available at the link in the description. I have 5 altogether. 3 of them are horror books, and I hope you feel like checking them out. All right, let's get on with the video. All right. So, it's finally here. Well, it's not actually going to be here until March 1st, but you can pre-order it right now. But I did receive my contributor copy of the book Ooze, Little Bursts of Body Horror. And I do want to say, full disclosure, I do have a story that's included in this anthology, but I am reviewing it without that in mind. When I submitted my story, I said, hey, even if you don't accept it, I'd still like an advance copy to review. So I'm taking myself out of the equation, and I'm only going to be talking about the other 20 stories in this book of body horror. But I don't want to leave anybody out, because I would feel bad, because this is an excellent collection, as we'll get into. And right here, I have a list of names. These are all the authors you get to read if you pre-order your copy of Ooze at the link in the description. And I'm going to read them off for you here real quick, just to make sure everybody gets their recognition, because they deserve it after what they've written. Okay, we start out with a foreword by Bridget Nelson. More about that in a minute. Then we have Cassandra Dawkins, Tom Combe, Judith Sonnet, Lindsay Kroll, D. Matthew Urban, Brandon Applegate, Emma E. Murray, Roland Bursey Jr., Monica Lausen, Lena Ng, Ruth Anna Evans, Kat Volor, Lore Gislason, Dan Scammell, Chelsea Pumpkins, Amanda M. Blake, Matt Bliss, V.G. Campen, Paul Sheldon, and Nico Bell. Those are all of the authors whose stories you're going to be reading in this collection. And I want to start out with that foreword I told you about by Bridget Nelson. It's a great way to start this anthology. She's going to tell you a true story of when she was a child, and that concerns a broken arm and a severe case of the mumps. And it's gross, and it's funny, and I think it's a perfect way to get this book started, and how she feels about this subject of body horror. Horror people are kind of weird. Let's face it, man, we're kind of wired different. If you were to write a review about a restaurant and you used adjectives like disgusting, vile, gross, people would think you did not like that restaurant that much, and they would avoid it at all costs. But when you're using those same adjectives to describe the stories in this book, people are like, yes, that's the kind of thing I want. This must be really good. Something about us is just a little weird, guys. And that's all right. But some of the early reviews have come in on Goodreads. Be sure to check out the Goodreads page for the anthology Ooze. And you'll see it's getting very good reviews, and those are some of the adjectives people use. And they are all kind of accurate. We have stories in here dealing with all kinds of body horror that is just going to blow you away, because it's, even though they are gross and they are disgusting, and they will make you cringe and make you want to cover your eyes and shiver a little bit, they're all so well written that you'll see the beauty behind the gore. Let's put it that way. If people were to ask me what's my least favorite one in here, I couldn't answer that. I seriously think, even without my story included, that they are all bangers. There are no weak links in this anthology, and that's a hard thing to do when you're dealing with 21 authors. Now, of course, that's just my opinion, but I didn't find one that I thought, it was just all right. Everyone got a reaction out of me in one way or the other, and it was a very good thing. But some of the ones that stuck out to me, for whatever reason, and you got 21 stories in here. There are some that are going to stick out to you more, and these ones are mine. Judith Sonnet's the last hamburger restaurant in the world. Because when I first started reading that one, I thought, okay, it's a book of body horror. We're dealing with a hamburger restaurant. It's going to be about cannibalism. Nope. This one left my mouth hanging open from the way it built up inside this little restaurant, and these people eating their food. Then it got really gross, and then at the end, it just came out of left field. Something happened that just blew me away. It blew my mind, and I was just fascinated that it took the turn that it did. But I really, really enjoyed that. Matter of fact, if she were to write a novella about this restaurant, I would read it because it's fascinating and it's gross, and the ending is something that just came so far out of left field. I didn't even imagine it ever. I didn't see it coming. There's one story in here that doesn't even have a human being in it. A body horror story without a human. And it's about other things that maybe are not of this world, that maybe lands in the ocean from outer space. But animals have bodies. The birds above, the fish below, they have bodies. And so what would that kind of horror look like if we weren't dealing with humans? So that one was very interesting because it took it from the land to the sea and still gave us a fantastic, creepy little horror story in there. Ruth Anna Evans, she is the editor of this book and the mastermind behind it. And I know she'll say, hey, it was a team effort. I had a lot of help. And yeah, she did. But it was her idea. It's her baby. And she has a story in here, and that one is just as weird. It is, well, let me just put it this way. It'll make you think twice about wanting to have a relationship with anybody ever again. If this is the kind of stuff that goes on, what are we even doing with the relationships? It's like, I don't want to end up on that table, and you'll find out what I mean when you read her story, but it's great. And believe it or not, some of the stories in here are actually kind of heart-wrenching. Like how far would you go for the person you loved? And when you think you have an extreme answer for that, these authors are going to take it to an even more extreme measure. Because some of these stories are about love, but they are about the lengths they go through to prove that love are twisted and sick and disgusting. And you might think love, love is a many splendid thing or whatever the saying goes. But in these stories, it is definitely not. It will churn your stomach and make you think twice about your concept of everybody's favorite emotion. But they're beautiful. That's the thing. It's like, oh, man, considering what happens to some of the characters, you're like, oh, man, that's just heart-wrenching. So can something disgusting and vile be heartbreaking? Yes, it can. And you'll find out with a couple of the stories in this book. But there's one story. Now, like I said, everybody's going to have their favorites, and it's going to depend on what grosses you out the most, what makes you cringe the most in body horror, what kind of things really give you the case of the creepy crawlies. And in my opinion, the one that really, really affected me the most, and the one that I'm so glad I was not eating pasta when I read it. Well, actually, there's a warning. Don't be eating anything when you're reading these, by the way. Just get that out of the way right now. But the one that made me glad that I was not eating pasta before I read it was one called Parasite, and that one came from let me see here. Oh, yeah, Roland Bursey Jr. Roland Bursey Jr. had the one that grossed me out the most. Congratulations, Roland. I didn't think it was possible. But this story just, oh, man, it did me in. It was just, well, let's go back to those adjectives. Gross, vile, disgusting. And I loved it. I absolutely loved that feeling he gave me. Man, my skin was crawling. Thankfully, not literally, because once you read the story, you'll know what I mean. But and then his little section at the end where you talk about the author. He said he's going to turn this into a full-length novella. And I was like, oh, man, I don't know if I could read anymore. But, yeah, you know I'm going to read some more because it was just gross. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. You have stories in here about somebody vomiting some meat they ate, but then the parts all form into a supernatural kind of creature. Believe it or not, you have some that are a little bit more science fiction-y. There's one of that. Hey, listen, man. If you want to exercise, you want to extend your life, I'm all for it. You know, go ahead, you do you. But there's one in there that might make you rethink that thought also. The story about an exercise routine that is going to transform your body, but not in a good way, not in a good way at all. and I thought that story was very, very good and very, very unique. Man, there's just so much in here to talk about. And here's something. The first book is, I believe it's called Teething, and it deals with a baby, and is going to be very gross, of course, by the end. But then the last story, Chrysalis, deals with a woman. It's a body horror story about a woman going through menopause. So I don't know if that was intentional, but I love the way that Ruth Anna Evans, when she edited it, she put a story about a baby and then a story about an older person. And, you know, those are the bookends of this anthology. One at the beginning, one at the end. And that kind of tells you have everything in between. Every kind of person, every kind of situation, every kind of circumstance you can think of. And they're all there to make you feel a little bile in the back of your throat once you're done reading. That's right. This is an extreme book of body horror, and I absolutely loved all the stories in there, and I cannot recommend it enough. Like I said, take my story out, and I still want you to get it. I still want you to pick it up and read it because it's a banger, and you are going to either love me or hate me for it, depending on how you view these stories. But I think you'll love me once you do. And like I said, there is a link below if you want to purchase it and pre-order it right now on Amazon. It comes out on March 1st. And as always, I want to say thank you for taking some of your time, spending it here with me. I really appreciate you guys watching. And until we meet again, keep reading spooky, my friends.